What's up, everybody? Let's make sure this is working right. Did this last week, didn't suck, kind of had fun. Let's do it again. Everything seems to be recording right. I got lucky last week. Recorded through the mic, the video recorded, easy edit on the beginning and end in Riverside. That's been great. Super easy. They made video editing easy. This podcast brought to you by Zen. Anyhow, it was super easy. Just chop the beginning, chop the end. It was kind of fun. Thought I'd do it again this week. So I got some stuff to talk about. We have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, one word per topic. No, it's just stuff I'm thinking about. That's all. It's just stuff I'm thinking about. Stuff I think some of the public is thinking about when you're driving your car, or you got some downtime, or you're sitting in the backyard wondering about things, or I don't know. Maybe it overlaps on some of that stuff. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe this is just an insight in my little world. But I think some of these things are on people's mind. But that's it. That's all we're doing. We're just talking it through. So I think everything's working. Let's rock and roll and hope for the best. Because man, it would be disheartening if I recorded an entire thing and then it just didn't work. Before we get started, here's something that I feel like somebody out there needs to hear. Kids get better with age. Kids get better with age. Man, this past Sunday was Father's Day, and we were out to lunch with the family. We started this tradition recently that we fell into by accident, but Sundays kind of sucked, and it was like the worst day of the week. And you get up, go to church. That feels good, productive, if that's an okay term to use. But, refreshing. That feels good. But then you get home and, there are seasons which you might relate to where, you're really not looking forward to Monday, and you feel the weight of the week getting drawn forward into Sunday. That's the best way to put it. And so we were feeling a lot of that on Sunday, and we kind of, we had been to this place, this like neighborhood tap room, grill, great food, great drinks. But the food is simple, like tap room type food, but it's good. It's really good. It's really good food. Somewhere here in Nashville, and we'd been there, I think on a Saturday evening, my wife and I, just kind of hanging out, just the two of us, and just were feeling something pretty chill. Went there and loved it. And the food was fantastic, and it's just easy and casual, And the next day was Mother's Day. So we went there for Mother's Day. And then I was kind of thinking later on that week, I was like, what if we made like going to that place every Sunday we go to church, which isn't every, but most. We, if we're in town or whatever, every Sunday we go to church, we'll go there for lunch. And let's do that for a decade. And at that point, our oldest is 24. Our youngest, is 15. Like what if we just, I have 5 kids. So you're going to go to a restaurant every Sunday for lunch. That's going to add up. But what if we just viewed it as an investment and made it like something? And we told the kids, like, we'll do, what if we do this as long as it's fun for everyone? Because sometimes you go to a restaurant with the kids, even at this stage, and it's a shit show and you wish you had not gone. It just would have been easier if you hadn't gone to the restaurant. You try to do something good for them, try to give them, some good food, a fun experience. The family's out together and it blows up in your face. Like that happens from time to time, and it's happening less and less, thank God. But anyhow, so just kind of setting the expectations, like, look, we're just going to go hang out, have a good time. And then, so then we started talking about it and just really like the idea. So I think we're going to give it a go. But then we were like, do we want to have like a certain set of questions we ask every week, or, you know, that type of thing. When we went for Mother's Day, we'd like walk the street a little bit in the neighborhood. Do we want to do that every Sunday? And then we kind of settled on like, no, we don't want to do that. Like, let's not make this complicated. Let's not overstructure it. Let's just make it a thing. Let's let it play out. Let them have fun with it, kind of make it their own. You know, maybe one day one of them is bringing their fiance or girlfriend to this because she's in town or whatever. She's here and she's coming along with us now. And the kids they start to date, you know, start coming with us. And that's kind of a thing we can have as a family. So we're doing that, and it's really been awesome. But anyhow, we were there for lunch on Sunday, which happens to be Father's Day. And I got to give my kids credit. I mean, they are the most fun to be around when you're having a Father's Day or a birthday. It's pretty. I don't know where they get it from. They definitely do not get it from me. Mariana's a little bit better with some of this stuff. But man, I mean, they're saying Happy Father's Day almost nonstop all day. I mean, it'll go a little bit, and then someone will say it, and when someone says it, they all five have to say it. So you hear like Happy Father's Day like 5 times in a row, and then 35 minutes later, you hear it all over again all day. And they gave me cards, and all of them gave me chocolate. It was awesome. It was my best Father's Day yet. It was great. So, but anyhow, shout out to my kids for making it fun to have a birthday or a Father's Day. I will say that they do a fantastic job. But we're at this restaurant, and there was a young couple, couple of tables over, and it looked to me like they had 3 kids under 5, let's just say. And to be honest, they look a little bit stressed out. It looked like, you know, they were out here, you know, all 3 of the kids are way too young to like contribute to Father's Day. Like, they might know what's going on, but, you know, they're not really, you know, contributing to it. You know, the mom's trying to make it special for the dad, so they go to lunch probably, and then it just looked like they had their hands full, and, you know, it was we're a little tired and a little stressed. And my goodness, I think the reason that I felt like I could see it was because we were there for a decade, and, you know, we had 5 kids every 2 years. So well, that's not true. We weren't there for a decade. We were there for 5 years. That's what it was. We were there for probably 5 to 7 years. Lincoln's 14 now. How long do I want to say we were in that stage? Well, that particular stage, yeah, you're in it with 3 kids under 5, 3 kids under 7. Like, I for that particular stage, I guess we were kind of going to the next stage after we'd had probably our 4th kid. Because by that point, the oldest is, you know, I guess when we had number 4, if it was every 2 years, Lincoln was 8. You know, that's getting better, bigger, more mature, you know, more of the adult coming through. 10, 12, you know, they really start to grow up a lot. 14, they're basically grown up, you know. I mean, they're still dumb, but they're not 2 or 3, and it's just gotten way better. So yeah, that particular stage of, I mean, like, having a kid it's a process. It's a process. And I affectionately refer to the first period of the birth, you know, probably 3 to 6 months. It's hell zone. You're in the hell zone. Some babies are better than others, but just go in expecting it's hell zone for 3 to 6 months. You're not going to be the priority. Baby takes all the time and energy, all the sleep. Mom's low on sleep. Mom's got a baby attached to her hip nonstop, you know, and there's just sort of a tenseness that we experienced. I'm sure it doesn't have to be like that, but we experienced it. And, you know, I know we're not the only ones. So if you have young kids, take heart. It gets way better, and it gets better soon. Like, the days are long, but the years are short. And before you know it, that little 5-year-old is going to be 14. I'm telling you. Before you know it, that little 2-year-old is going to be 6, you know? And so take heart, keep going. It gets better gradually. And it just, you know, it's been our experience. The older they've gotten, the better it gets. So hang in. Sharks in Florida, what the heck is going on? Is it my Instagram algorithm? Or is there a ridiculous increase in the number of sharks swimming around 30A, Seaside, Seacrest, Destin, Orange Beach, the whole like Redneck Riviera, like the whole top side of the Florida Peninsula and out into Alabama, like that whole stretch of beach is getting so many sharks. It's ridiculous. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago, like a week and a half ago? Wasn't it? I think it was last week where there were shark bites 4 miles from apart. The one person at the one location, I think, got bit in like the midsection thigh area, and the other got their foot, jacked up. And 4 miles apart, right there in like Seacrest area, I believe, one of them. And Destin's not super far up the way, but they were 4 miles apart, like right there. And you'll see a video. I saw one the other day of a shark swimming between a dad on a paddleboard with a kid who was not out very far at all, like what would look to me like waist deep water, maybe a little deeper. And a shark is swimming between them and shore. Like, this is a big freaking shark. Like, I'm not talking, you know what I mean? Like, big freaking sharks. Some of these sharks look like they're as long as this table, 8-10 foot. I mean, I don't know. This is just Instagram videos, but they look giant to me. They look terrifying, and they're swimming around people, and it's happening more and more. And so, yeah. And I'm sure I'm getting extra of, because now it's like they're popping up on my Instagram, and it never happened before. But I don't believe it's just that my algorithm is just now catching it, although in some way it really is just now catching it. But they have been happening. This is not new for the people that live down there. Sharks come around. You see sharks. Sharks are in the ocean. Newsflash. If you don't live on the ocean, keep in mind, sharks live in the ocean. That's a thing. It's been a thing since as long as we are aware that it's been a thing as long as we've been here. Sharks are in the ocean. And when you go down to the tippy tip of Florida, or even up on the panhandle, and you get in what? The ocean. What is in the ocean? Sharks. So these are things like that people that live there or close to an ocean have a greater awareness about. I was aware, sure, but I never, we've been to those areas. We've been to Seaside, Seacrest, Destin, Orange Beach. We've been to those areas. These are all areas now that I've seen sharks pop up on my Instagram. And, when you're there, you are aware that this is an ocean and there are sharks in it, but you're on vacation, you're going to the beach, you're getting in the ocean, and how's the temperature of the water, and you're splashing around, and the kids are in there, and let's just make sure no kid gets taken out to sea or drowns, or, where's all the kids, and half of them in the sand, half of them, they're what, great, they're playing, they all know how to swim, we're good, and everyone's having a good time, and maybe you're drinking something or whatever you're doing. Having me or a kid get bitten by a shark in waist deep water is just not really super top of mind, and it should have been. In hindsight, it should have been. We'll definitely be going forward. I can promise you that. I've always had I think a healthy respect for like the danger of animals, whether it's sharks in the ocean or bears in the woods, or you don't just mess around with that stuff. So I'm going to be more careful. And was talking with someone who spent a lot of time fishing, who lived down there on the ocean, around the ocean. And he was saying that, there is somewhat of a question about why the sharks are increasing, but they're definitely increasing. What we know is I don't believe you can fish them. You can't, I don't think you can kill them. So you can't harvest the herd, so to speak. You can't fish for them. You can't kill them in any way. And there's a lot of, the snapper regulations apparently are a little different than they used to be. Maybe you can't catch quite as many as you once could. So there's an increase in snapper fish, on the shallow part of the ocean, and the sharks eat snapper fish. So, an increase in snapper food is going to be an increase in the people the things that eat that food. And then also there's a lot of like the fishermen will be like out catching a whole, shit ton of fish and come in and clean them and kind of throw the remains back in the water, and it creates a chum, and the chum goes kind of out the kind of the bay area into the ocean, and sharks love that. So you're kind of attracting them in a way. Maybe that explains all of it. Maybe it doesn't. I don't really know. I'm curious to know, but it does seem like there's an increase in sharks. But the one thing that he was saying was, and he knew this as a teenager, as a young adult, was like, it's safer to be scuba diving around sharks than it is to be in waist deep water with them. Because when you're in waist deep water to the shark, there's no way around. You have, you're gonna encounter them in a more direct way, because there's no up or down. You're just in waist deep water. So then it's all like 2D. But also the bigger thing is, like, sharks, when they're in waist deep water, they're thinking food. So when they're in waist deep water, they're looking to eat. And so being in waist deep water, which, good grief, is not far in the ocean. I mean, for crying out loud, waist deep water, like, that's not far at all. Like, is that, good grief, if waist deep water in the ocean is danger zone, I really am going to think about getting in that water a little differently. But yeah, it's safer to be scuba diving with sharks than it is to be in waist deep water. So apparently, possibly, this is what I've heard. Be careful out there. Don't get bit by a shark. Biden's age. Let's talk about Biden's age. I think we are getting gaslit. And I do not know what gaslit means. What does gaslighting mean?
Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where a person or group makes someone question their reality or perceptions. It often involves denying facts, lying, or creating doubt in the victim's mind to make them feel confused or uncertain about their memory, perception, or sanity. The term comes from the play and film Gaslight, where a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she is losing her mind by dimming the gaslights and denying it's happening when she notices.
Oh, shit. Wish I hadn't heard that. That's what gaslighting is. There's a lot of gaslighting going on. But yeah, is what I call Biden's age gaslighting? I don't know. I think, though, that it is a narrative, and it's becoming a very successful narrative, and it's driving me crazy. And I want to tell you why it's driving me crazy. It's driving me nuts. When I'll hear even like normal, like, good, regular, like, reporters, journalists that I would actually, watch a little bit on YouTube or whatever, because I'll even hear some of them, like, it's not just like the Democrats pushing this narrative. It's leaking out into, like, the public consciousness, because they've been pushing it deliberately, in my opinion, because the issue is not age. The issue is not age. Biden's only 81 years old. I mean, that's not that old. All right. I mean, my grandfather lived to be well into his 90s, like mid 90s. And I can promise you this. I remember, 15 years prior, yeah, he would have been 81 years old. And so he didn't really seem to start to decline much until he hit 90. Trump 78. I believe I have those numbers correct. Biden's 81, Trump 78. But yeah, the issues that you're seeing with Biden, it's got more to do with other things than it has to do with age. And about 2 years ago, because you didn't used to hear this, see, we forget, because we forget. That's what happens around here. So we forget. But there was a time not that long ago where you were not hearing about Biden's age, and that was not being pushed, and you weren't hearing about it. Like, it was the silly gaffes and misspeaks and speeches and silly, sometimes the jumbling of words, and yeah, there was a question about, like, his mental acuity and mental readiness to do the job of the president of the United States when he was campaigning. there was questions out there, but this whole like Biden's age, attributing what's going on to his age was not a thing. And it's become a thing. And the first that I kind of remember hearing more about it, like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, it's been a bit, like maybe halfway through his term. So just hearing like kind of the first, like hearing about his age at like the level of like public narrative, I guess, like even CNN might mention it or something like that. And I remember when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going to happen here. Like they're going to pin this on age, and they're going to attach Biden's actions and perceived mental state to his age. And why would they do that? Like, what would be the advantage of maybe gaslighting us into believing that whatever's going on with Biden has to do with his age? Like, why would they want to attach those two and maybe not talk about the fact that what's going on with Biden has to do with his mental acuity and health and wherewithal and like what's going on in his brain? How sharp is he? Is he okay? um, I think that would be far worse. That would be the far worse narrative for them, for the Democrats. They're looking to front someone who apparently they think has their best shot for this party winning, and they've chosen him for some crazy reason. And so they're going to give him every advantage possible. And one of those advantages that they're giving him is trying to distract people from his mental acuity and getting people focused on the age. I think. I mean, that would be one reason why you would want to, attach it to age. If you're gonna observe that this is what's happening, and then ask the question like, well, why would this happen? Why would they push this forward? I think, I think personally, two primary reasons why they might be interested in that, because both are very obvious and common sense and advantageous to them. But the one is, yeah, it's far better to have people attaching his actions and words to his age than it is to his mental acuity, mental readiness, ability to do the job of the president of the United States. If that narrative got attached to him, you would think it would be over, right? I mean, you would think. The reason I say that you would think is because, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's gotten kind of weird, it's gotten kind of weird in this country. Like what you once thought things were and what you once thought like how things were and how they worked and how they functioned and our place in that and how the whole system fit together and what the outcomes were of that, you know, yeah, I don't know, because what I've seen in the last 4 years is pretty incredible. 4 or 5 years is pretty incredible. Like what's gone on in this country with narratives and propaganda and vested interests and huge money and motives and manipulation and false accusations and it, it feels like we've kind of lost our common sense. And so if you've lost your common sense, then like anything could happen, right? I mean, so no, am I certain that if Biden's mental state got attached at the level of public narrative to questioning that mental state itself, it could be that we just elect someone we all know has mental problems and we just know they're not all there and we just know like that's what it is, but we still want that guy to be the president. Like that it could happen, you know. I mean, it sounds crazy if you'd have said this 10 years ago. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. But it, you know, I don't know. I'm not saying it won't happen, but yeah, it's just but so that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is, you know, they know better than anyone that excuse me while I fix my mustache. They know better than anyone that Trump's 3 years behind, right? Trump's 78, Biden's 81. Make it about age because then you can lump Trump in with that. And, you know, it's just untrue. That's what bothers me the most about this whole like age is the problem with Biden thing. It's not age. It's just untrue, okay? Does it have anything to do with age? Sure. Sure. If it's dementia that's going on in there, if it's you know, I don't know, Alzheimer's, if there's sort of like a disease of the brain, or if the brain is just degenerating quicker than normal maybe, or it's just because of the, you know, not a knock. I mean, this could be anyone. Like just because of the physical state of the brain, if that's starting to degenerate, you know, quicker than average or normal or like abnormally or like something's going on here, you know what I mean? Um if what was I talking about? Good grief. Degenerating the brain. Yeah, if if that's the yeah, they're just like there's clearly something going on. Okay, that's my point. So, you know, I don't really want to compare him to Trump, who's 3 years behind him, because that just pits the two people against each other. That's missing the point. Although it's pretty you would look at Trump right now and you would not forecast a trajectory to be where Biden is right now in 3 years time. I mean, you just wouldn't. Like a reasonable person would not. If you've seen Trump, you've seen his schedule, you know, he's 3 years behind, but you wouldn't if you were betting $1 million, you wouldn't bet on the fact that in 3 years Trump would be in the state that Biden is. So that's also true. But my bigger point is not comparing them head to head, really, but just comparing Biden to an average 81-year-old. I mean, there was a 70-year-old in my office today who had fought in Vietnam, did bodybuilding, did powerlifting, is active. He was thinking about getting a garage from us or building it himself. And he's well into his 70s. Like in 5, 6 years' time, unless something happens that hasn't happened to him yet and his trajectory changes significantly, or he like gets sick with something, he's not going to be in Biden shape at 81. I mean, does someone just need to say this out loud? Like this, it just doesn't appear that he is mentally fit to be the president of the United States. He has a hard time talking. He has a hard time getting the right words out. Sometimes just a stream of words just kind of comes out like a big jumble, and you don't know what he was trying to say. And sometimes he'll like just stand there and be like stiff and kind of hunch forward and just be like frozen standing there. And then someone will grab his hand and kind of walk away, and he'll kind of walk away like hunched and stiff, and you know, look, it seems like the guy is not fit to be president of the United States. I mean, is that okay to say? I mean, good grief. Like, can someone help this guy out? Can someone, I mean, surely there's got to be someone, right? I mean, they had um, Robert Bobby Kennedy Jr., they had Tulsi Gabbard. You know, there are other options. It's just interesting that they're putting this option forward for the second term because, you know, does he make it through the second term? I mean, I don't know. Probably, right? I mean, you can go from this state to not being alive, I mean, that can go on for some time sometimes, So does he make it? Is he alive? I mean, I don't know. Probably, right? But is he in the state that you should be in to run the United States of America as the president? It just doesn't look like it to me. And it's about his mental acuity, not his age. So I know there's no chance the narrative is going to shift, but just watch for it. Wars. What is going on with all the wars? A lot of wars right now. Yeah. What I think is going on with some of the wars, I would leave the Israel Gaza war out of this because I haven't been keeping up with what's going on with that too much, and I just think that's a different. I don't know. I could be wrong, but to me, that feels like that's something else is going on there, not maybe what I like to talk a little bit more about, like with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, because I think they might be somewhat two different things. But boy, we love war in this country, don't we? We love war. Like, we glorify it and honor it and expect it and celebrate it. And I don't know, I guess I'm not going to say that that's all wrong. There's a reality to it, and there's a nobleness to it for a lot of people, an honor to it in some cases. But but yeah, let's that we do that. Whether it's right or wrong, we seem to do it at the level of culture in this country. I think I might. I don't know. Am I able to spot it a little bit better because I grew up Mennonite and we didn't go to war? That was not a thing that we did. We didn't vote. We did not sign up for military service. And if there was a draft, because a lot of my parents' friends and their parents, maybe now the age, two generations, my grandparents, more of them would have, when there was the draft, there was a draft in this country at one point. They all would like go serve as like a medic or something like that. You could do that. That was an option in the draft. So they would all do that, but they wouldn't go out and fight and kill people because their belief is the commandment "do not kill" means more than just "do not murder." It means "do not kill." Basically, the insinuation is do not kill any human life at all, ever. And there's a place for government. Let the government go do their job, but you do not kill. You don't kill anyone for really any reason ever, and that would include in war. So I know other people interpret that verse as "do not murder," which would, you know, by definition, sure, you could argue with this, but when you say "do not murder," that by definition is not a kind of in a just war. So that's what other people would believe on that. But so yeah, so maybe just not growing up in it too much. Maybe that's one reason why I just sort of notice that we do celebrate it and honor it and expect it. But I think with all the wars, and now I will say, like, I'm not necessarily talking about World War II, and I'm not necessarily talking about World War One. I'm talking a more recent history, maybe the '60s on. So what is that? 40 years plus 24. Good grief, 64 years. That's a long time. Um, yeah, we just seem to like to have our fingers in stuff. We seem to like to want to sort of fiddle with stuff. We seem to like to want to have our our sort of tentacles into the global activity, and the truth is we're a young country. Like we are, what are we, 250 years old? I mean, wasn't it 1773? So 200 years later, it's 1973. I mean, I was born a decade after that. So, like, I was born a decade after this country was only 200 years old. I mean, that's crazy young. That's crazy young. 250 years. And then China, what are they, 5,000? How old is like the country that was on Russia's motherland there? I don't know. More than a few thousand, right? More than a couple thousand. And we're 250 years old. Like, we are so freaking young. And okay, a 250-year-old country all on its own is, maybe there's others, maybe that's not we're the biggest country. We're the most powerful country. We're the country that every other country has to account for. And we did it in 250 years. It's insane. It's insane. Like, how did that even happen? How did we go from 0 to 250 years old and become the superpower of the earth? By far, by far. 60 years ago, you know, um, it's shifted now. I mean, we're doing everything we can possibly do to run this country into the ground. So, yeah, at some point it's going to shift. I mean, if you do everything you can possibly do from all angles, from all spheres, from all vortices or whatever, like, you're not going to be the superpower forever. I mean, it has to do with who you are as a country, what you do, how you handle yourself, the things you value, the things you allow, the things you don't allow, the things you aspire to, the things you sacrifice for, the things you spend money on, how you interrelate with the rest of the world, the people you put in power to go interface with the rest of the world, the monetary system, like that. That's the stuff that makes you a superpower or not. So if you're just gonna like shit all over it, it's not going to be autopilot. It's not. This is not a given thing. This is not a default thing that we were the superpower. It's because of the things we did, and it was because of the structure and the system and how that was all set up. Because you can't micromanage this stuff. Like, you have to set the system up properly and give it good bones, give it good structure, and then just let it ride. And that's what happened, and we see the result. But yeah, somewhere in there you have, you know you have the kind of the underbelly, you have the seemingly necessary governmental agencies that seemingly, we're led to believe is necessary to run this country and keep it safe and keep the world sane and get in front of basically everything, see everything coming, so that we can manipulate and mold basically the world to our advantage to keep us safe and protect us. That's what we're led to believe. And, is that true or not? I don't know. I don't know if that's true. But if you're going to have that, you really need to make sure it stays in you need to make sure that it operates within a clearly defined value system and goal system. And you need to make sure it has really good oversight, because something like this can really get away from you. You need to make sure it has really good oversight, and you need to make sure it somehow always remains serving the will of the people and the good of the people. But to have something like that, which we absolutely have, the CIA in particular, they're the ones that are focused more like internationally. you know we definitely have it, and we have that agency, and it's the CIA, and there's others too, and they'll get with each other when they need to. Don't worry about that. They're not just going to operate on their own when another governmental agency can help them out with something. Yeah, you just need to make sure that stuff doesn't go on in that, because there's so much power there. There's so much influence there. It can really dictate the future. It can. It really can define history. Like, it can make historical marks on the world. If you have something like that has that much power. So, and we have it, and I think that there's not the proper oversight. I don't think there is the proper transparency. I don't know that there is the proper accountability. And you see like these things that happened in history in the past that we're learning more and more about. Like, it seems highly unlikely that the CIA had nothing to do with you know um, Kennedy's assassination, right? Like, you don't have to look in it too far, and you start to really wonder. And more's come out about that recently, and I mean, I just think I'm sure there's lots of people that would still disagree with this, but I think if at the level of public consciousness, if you said, yeah, the CIA shot Kennedy, I mean, not too many people would be like, not shocked, and a whole bunch of other people are like, yeah, I already knew that. It's not really being said like um, across the news stations. There's a lot of the stuff is still classified. And then, I mean, you could go on down the list. The stuff we did, like with LSD treatments on people, um, the what have we like offed like 60? Apparently, we've like offed or dethroned like 60 global leaders to this point. In the recent history, like in the last 60 years or whatever. And so it's not just because of those two or three things. Like, I'm just talking. I don't. You could come up with a lot pretty dang quick. And especially when it comes to like moving chess pieces around in foreign countries that are to our advantage. And the Russia thing. I mean, apparently apparently Russia doesn't want NATO on their border, and can't say you blame them, can you? I mean, Putin tried to join NATO in the early 90s, and Clinton said sounds good, and then talked to his people and said no, can't do it. So Putin's ready to try to join NATO. I mean, it's not like he's trying to go to war with NATO, I don't think. But no, we wouldn't let him in, and we continue NATO because we need to have adversaries, and Russia needed to be one of them. And I'm sure they've done their fair share to poke at us too. And you could maybe make the argument that it was deserved, but for here we are. And the agreement was that we would not bring NATO closer to them, and all we've done since then is bring NATO closer to them. And then we go do we removed the leader in Ukraine back in 2014, and you bet the CIA was involved with that. And we remove, the leader of that country because, we know what's best for him. So we've done this 60 other times. So we'll go in there and remove the leader, create some unrest, get the guy we want in there. And, there's been fighting there ever since. So, and then what happens when what happens then with an entity with this much power is you need to control it. And I just don't I just I just don't think Biden's controlling anything. I mean, I'm sorry to say it. Like, don't tag me as some far right wing nut job. I mean, it's just I don't think Biden's controlling anything. So right now, I think these governmental agencies are just going for it. And what do we do in this country better than anything else? We freaking go for it. So I think we've been going for it. And I think it's springing stuff up. And then when it gets sprung up, then we don't want peace to happen when there's peace negotiations. I mean, what I did not know until last week was Biden met with Putin in person in, I think, December of 2021. And Putin brought a draft security agreement to that meeting in person with Biden. And we rejected it outright. We didn't begin negotiations. We didn't say, how about this or how about that? Or we need to change half of this whole thing. We didn't go back and forth. We just said no and rejected it. And then uh, Russia invades Ukraine, and Biden and Putin haven't talked since. I mean, can you imagine that? Biden and Putin haven't talked since. And now what do we have? Over 500,000 dead over there. And then you get what were we in the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, when they came to the table for peace negotiations, and there was an actual draft there was an actual shot to negotiations, and we, along with Boris Yeltsin, or no, is that right? I don't think that's right. Boris Johnson, I think. Yeah, I think Yeltsin was Russian. We, along with Boris Johnson, denied it. And so they've been fighting ever since. I mean, this is why who the president is actually does matter. You know? I mean, and we've all forgotten about the Afghanistan withdrawal. Like, what a total unmitigated disaster that was. Yeah, I mean, but what do you expect, if you're caught up in a bunch of agendas and seem to be somewhat openly promoting philosophies that do not seem to be for the that do not seem to be in line with the flourishing of humans, and you're promoting that, and that's where your focus is, and then no one's there to you know steer the train and act as the person in the position of the president of the United States. I mean, yeah, this stuff's going to happen. It's going to happen more. I mean, so you know do I think the Russia invading Ukraine, like Biden himself personally provoked that? No, not necessarily. I don't necessarily think that. I do think he was the person to stop it, and he didn't. And that's not good. And what's crazy is, this is what's crazy. Even after the total shit show of the Afghanistan withdrawal, which we've all forgotten about, and the insanity at the border, just, I mean, good grief. The border is just, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. Like, this isn't going to go well. You can't just let anyone walk in here. It's not going to go well, and it's not going well. And to see the federal government like actively limit Texas's ability to protect their own border is really weird. Like, you would think of all the things the federal government would be inclined to turn a blind eye to would be Texas protecting its own border. You know, maybe it's against their policy. Maybe, maybe it's a gray area. It's against your policy, but they let them go. Make sure it doesn't get attention. You control the news, so just make sure no one says anything about it and turn a blind eye and get Texas gets to protect their border. But no, they like physically go in and make sure Texas can't protect its own border. Like, that's what's going on. And then the war in Ukraine, I mean, it's really sad, like, so many people are dying. I mean, this is the war that, to me, like in my day, seems the most obviously provoked by the underbelly of the US government, because we like to fiddle with things and we like to tamper with things and war is good for this country and there's big money involved. And so then that happens, and then are so many people are dying. And even in all that, you'll have the sentiment of like, you know, you have the right to have this sentiment. Okay. This is your right. I may disagree with it, but, and I'd be happy to point out maybe why I disagree with it, but you get the right to have your own viewpoint also. And there is a viewpoint out there, because I heard it recently, where the viewpoint is like, man, isn't it nice to just wake up in the morning and not hear about Trump on the news every single morning? And isn't that refreshing? And I just think here's what I think is, I think that's a product of propaganda. I think that shows how successful the news media was on just Trump everything. They were obsessed with Trump. And I think it's because, Trump was not going to be good for these government agencies that I'm talking about. Trump was not going to be good for, a whole lot of things, but primarily he was the one running against, you know, the party that tends to control the narrative. So they're just going to use the propaganda outlets, the narrative machine. They're going to use that to, to attack him the best that they can. And so they did that. For 3 years we heard nothing except Russia's collusion with Trump, right? I mean, the whole thing was a joke. The whole thing was a sham, and we just heard about it day in and day out for 3 years. And yeah, so I get people being exhausted about hearing about Trump all the time. I was exhausted hearing about Trump all the time. Heck, I didn't start to follow politics until 2020. I mean, I just never cared that much about it. When Trump became president in 2016, I don't know, like, was it a big deal? No. I mean, I was barely paying attention, like, I'd heard of Trump, businessman, whatever. Um, but I wasn't paying that much attention. But 2020 started just paying a lot more attention with the weirdness of COVID. But yeah, I think, they were definitely trying to make us tired of him. I think that was happening, because there's a lot of airtime that was used up on things that just turned out to be nothing. And maybe that's just accidental, or maybe it was on purpose. So anyhow, I get the viewpoint of like, just tired of hearing about Trump, but I don't know that you can really blame all that on Trump. I think you have to assign some of that blame to the news outlets. And what I would suggest is, go for a season just removing yourself from those news outlets. Just remove yourself. Just don't watch any news on TV. Just read the paper, read the news, go online, read it. Just read, um, but filter out like the stuff that seems to have ties into positions of power and might have sort of influence behind what they're writing. Like, excuse me, just filter that stuff out. Like, don't read that stuff. Because when you really kind of zoom out, I mean, isn't it kind of crazy? Like, man, I'd rather have the news just be going nuts, talking about someone all day, and not have all these deaths. Like, I guess policy does matter, Policy, it actually does matter. I don't know. I just find it kind of ironic that, like, I guess here's what it is like, we got to A/B test this thing, right? We had 4 years with Trump. We had 4 years with Biden. And with all due respect, it's just like everything seems to be going to shit with Biden. And to like weigh that at a greater value, or to weigh the fact that you don't have to hear about Trump on the news every day as greater value than the current state of reality is, man, that's really something. But hey, you have the right to that opinion. Personally, I think, there's a lot of propaganda behind that, but you may disagree with that, and that's fine. Okay, so war in the governmental agencies that are led by people that don't get elected. Isn't it interesting how, like, we have this category for like superpower spy agencies that run the world? Mission Impossible, it's in there. 007, James Bond movies, it's in there. And a whole bunch of other like one-off movies. Like, isn't that interesting that there is a storyline that exists at the level of culture that shows us a spy agency that has ultimate power and that runs the world? Like, where does that idea come from? Is that a fantasy of ours? Do we is that something that we like? It's a certain storyline that we kind of like, that resonates with us. Maybe it resonates with like our Western values somehow, or it's like intriguing to us, or it's like alluring to us, that this idea of a spy agency that has all the power. It's a superpower. It really runs the world, but it's a spy agency. It exists in the shadows. It's not run by elected officials. It does not have public accountability. Where does that idea come from? Does it come from like writers that see the possibility of that happening in our society? That sees like the way society is and the way it's structured, and if certain things would shift a certain way and you would carry that over 100 years or some period of time where you get enough of modernity or technology or the ability to centralize power, that it would be the ultimate power if you could do it with no accountability. Do these writers see that as like a possibility and then they make movies about it? Or is this something where like we've seen patterns of in the past? Like it's looked different every time because the technology is different every time, but this is sort of the way we are as humans, like in our societies, in our generations, and in our what's the term I'm looking for? I guess society. Um, yeah, shoot. What's the word for that? Yeah, I guess the exact right word is skipping my mind. But yeah, at the level of, is this what tends to happen? You know, like you get to certain kind of period of time, and in the days of the Greeks and the others in between, like, is this a storyline that's played out where um you'll have like people rising up from within, taking power, doing it behind closed doors, not having public accountability, and you kind of see this play out again and again over time in different time periods, phases of society, civilization, in different civilizations. Boom, there we go. Does this tend to happen? And you kind of restart, and then it kind of tends to happen. Like, is it that, and I don't know, I'm just kind of curious, like, where this idea of like a spy agency with ultimate power that runs the world comes from. But hey, we have it. We have it. We've had it ever since I can remember watching movies as a little kid. You know, it's been around. Um, or they trying to like acclimate us to this, to desensitize us to this possibility, or even familiarize us with this model, and kind of shift us in a direction that makes us okay with it. Like we're aware that it's happening, but it's okay because they know things that we don't, and they don't have to have public accountability because that would hinder their ability to perform for our best interest. And so they should be out there kind of running the world, making their own decisions, moving people around on the chessboard as they please. Maybe that's something that should happen. Like maybe that's good. Maybe that's good for us. Maybe that's good for the world. Maybe the world needs that. you know are they trying to get us to believe that? You know, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, probably not, right? I mean, that's kind of crazy. Maybe it just sells. Maybe the movies just sell. Conor McGregor, UFC 303, June 29th, I think Conor McGregor was scheduled to fight at UFC 303. Look, I'm going to watch. He's not going to fight. He got an injury. But if it was going to be Conor McGregor at UFC 303, was I going to watch it? Heck yeah, I'm going to watch it. It's a pay-per-view event. I don't like to miss the pay-per-view events unless I really have to. They're freaking awesome. They're just, it's the best. They're the best. Like the production level of the UFC is phenomenal. The way they quickly tell the stories of these fighters, and the fighters come out and there's the walkout, there's the pre-fight ritual, there's the announcement, there's the fight. Like it's so spellbinding. It's so like consequential. And these fighters are just warriors, and they're highly trained, like they're the best of the best, and you're just putting these people, these dudes and girls, in this cage, and you shut the door, both doors. I didn't realize there was two doors until I went to that UFC fight night in Louisville. There's two doors on the cage. I thought there was always just one. Tell you on TV, I don't know. There's two cage doors, so shut them both. Boom, and those fighters go at it, and it's like the elite of the freaking elite, and it's the best. So yeah, I was going to watch Conor McGregor UFC 303 for sure. Did I care that much about it? Not really. And I can tell you, I think there's two reasons. Well, Conor McGregor, I love like watching Conor McGregor fights from the past. I mean, what a freaking animal. What a beast. Like he's amazing. Like one of the best that's done it. Certainly one of the most popular, probably the most popular. And just how he's kind of leveraged each step of the way into like the success that he has today. I'm a huge Conor fan. I love seeing his fights from the past, but he fought through the 20 teens, and just a powerhouse he was. But I wasn't paying any attention to the UFC back then. I barely knew about it. And I remember seeing the replay. Someone was showing it of when Conor kicked that person and broke his shin midway down the shin, like halfway between the knee and the ankle. And if you break your shin and break it properly, your shin that is supposed to be straight will bend at the break. Like up here's your knee, down here's your ankle. This shin here that's supposed to be straight, you break it. And I don't like to see broken bones. I don't like to see the lower half of a leg in a different direction than the top half. I don't like to see the lower half of the shin in a different direction than the bottom half of the shin. That makes me nauseous. I hate it. The punching, the blood, the kicks, none of that. I have no problem with that. I can watch it, no problem. Someone gets in an arm bar and that elbow's going to snap or choking, fine. Arm bars, heel hooks, knee locks. Ugh, I just can't stand broken bones like that. It's disgusting. I have no stomach for it. So, I mean, I saw that replay quickly, but I don't want to see that stuff. Like if I'm watching the UFC now and that happens in a pay-per-view, I'm going to see it in real time, but I'm not going to watch the review. I'm not going to watch the replay. Broken bones, pop joints, just I have no stomach for that. So anyhow, he was fighting at a time when I wasn't following UFC whatsoever because I really only got into it in the last couple of years. So yeah, that's part of it. I think that's like thing one. And thing two is like, I don't know. What I love to see is UFC fighters. They're at their prime. They're at their peak, and they are fighting. They have been fighting. They're fighting tonight. They're going to fight, probably again 4 to 6 months from now. There's a trajectory to their career. They're striving for something. This is part of an ongoing journey. This is part of an ongoing fight, so to speak. It's part of an ongoing process of bettering themselves and conquering the world, essentially, in their world, and staying in that. And then other fighters you're going to compete against are fighting each other, and the winners of that is going to dictate who you're going to fight, and you're following this path through your career. Like, that's what I love to see. So for Conor to have that, for the many years he had it, and then to not fight for a few years and be making movies and be on his yacht and be open to restaurants, and he should definitely be doing that stuff. Absolutely. He's deserved it. He should be doing it. Love it. And if you pop back into the UFC for a fight and it's a pay-per-view, I'm going to watch it. But it's not going to be like the fight I'm going to be most excited about. So that's my take on that. BPC 157. That's what we talked about it last week on the show. Oh, geez. Here we go. Well, that's all blurred out. BPC 157. That's what that bottle looks like. There's only a few pills in here. 3. Dang. I actually need to take one tonight. So I've got 1 day left of these pills, and I don't think I want to spend the $160 to get another bottle. So I will have done this for 2 months. This is my second bottle. I would love to be on it all the time, to be honest with you, because I have noticed a difference. It did. I know I talked about this last week, but about to run out on that. But that's what it looks like. Okay, Alpha Brain, awesome, actually works from On It. Not cheap, like $70 a bottle, but the bottles last me forever. I mean, this is probably the only the second bottle I've had in 5-6 years. Love it. And it does work. You will notice, or I have noticed, and I have heard other people clearly notice, a difference in their mental sharpness, their clarity of mind, their ability to focus, their ability to converse. Like, it helps you with word placement, I feel like. Hey, if you're going to go communicate publicly with, take 1 or 2 of these, but don't have that be the first time. For me, it does give me some headaches. It gives me like a dull headache. And commonly, like, I've tried this multiple times, and it's especially if I take it, a couple of days in a row. But I don't take Alpha Brain much anymore because it gives me headaches, kind of dull, light headaches, but still, I don't like to have a headache of any kind, and it messes with my sleep. I can't sleep. But I take these Dr. Email Lion's Mane mushroom capsules, 3 a day every morning, and I swear by these. I really do. You can buy them on Amazon. If you just get a Lion's Mane mushroom capsule, but you want to get a good brand, and who knows how much of that is just what they put on the package. But I get the Dr. Emo Nutrition Lion's Mane mushroom capsule. It says supports focus, immunity, and memory. And yeah, I feel like it gives me a clear brain and no impact on my sleep, no headaches, no adverse effects of any kind. If I'm driving to the office and I was like, shoot, I forgot to take my 3 mushroom pills that morning, I'll just be like, shoot, but then what are you going to do? Cry about it, like, all right, big whoop-de-doo. But, and you move on. But I take them every morning because I can notice a difference. They make my mind feel a little clearer, a little sharper, a little healthier. It kind of makes my brain feel a little healthier somehow. So there's that. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope it was fun. Have a good week. And, with this last week, this sounds really weird to say out loud, but I really do hope you had a good week. Like, is that an okay thing to say? Like, isn't that awesome when you bump into someone and they're just, man, I just had the best week. It was awesome. I know they're not all going to be like this, but man, I just had the best week and it was so great. I love to hear that. Love to hear that, look, no one should fake it, so you're not going to hear that from most people most of the time, right? I mean, most of my weeks aren't like that. Probably most people's are not most like that most of the time. But when you have a great week, or you bump into someone who just had a great week, isn't that a cool thing to celebrate? I think so. I love to hear that. So I mean, I really hope you did have a great week. But if you didn't, one step at a time, one day at a time. Keep moving forward. Bye.